Empty space now, but there'd be no hope of seeing inside this room if it was filled with the technology needed for the best early warning defence system in the world. But it might be a big if, at least until the Defence White Paper is released at year's end.
Well, it's not being cancelled, and they're running around like Chicken Little saying the sky's falling in, and they've done this about 3 times now, and that's not the case.
The opposition says another delay is fair cause for alarm.
When I identified the $2 billion to fund it was not in the last budget, Senator Tierney said, "Don't worry, the contract's been signed." The contract hasn't been signed, and now the whole thing is up in the air.
$2 billion will supply the 6 or 7 converted 767s needed to run the early warning system. 200 jobs will be moved to the Williamtown base in the Hunter if Project Wedgetail is found to be a priority in the White Paper. Some Air Force personnel are already working at its planned operations centre.
There had been some initial disappointment the fact that the capability is probably going to be delayed somewhat, but I think most people can understand that the Defence White Paper is a very important paper defining our strategic circumstances.
And given the 2 previous white papers have found that this project should go ahead, I can't see why that wouldn't be the case this time.
Delayed, not cancelled, is the situation according to the Minister's office, which denies the Americans are hesitant to transfer the technology to Australia after John Moore smoothed out that problem in the US last year.
Butch Hayes is a well-known sporting personality in the Hunter. He used to play for the Falcons and still plays for the Hunters in the State Premier League. But now he's taken on another challenge, supporting disadvantaged youths.
Well, Great Mates is a non-profit organisation that provides mentors for disadvantaged and at-risk youth.
The Great Mates scheme has been operating in the Hunter for 2 years now and relies on a one-on-one friendship between a mentor and a youth. The aim of the program is to provide a positive influence into the young people's lives.
She thoroughly enjoys different activities and experiences that she hasn't had in her life before.
It's usually professional athletes and local sporting people who adopt the role of mentor, but Great Mates is about anyone who can enhance the lives of the Hunter's youth. Adam Harper, NBN News.
With American and Victorian competition looming, Energy Australia considers it essential now to get a solid toehold on any new contracts in the Hunter.
We're in the business of trying to win customers in all its forms. So we win customers for gas, telco, electricity, and that means we've got to build the infrastructure and control it, then we will.
Managing Director Paul Broad remains tight-lipped about how much money Energy Australia committed to winning the project, but it is in the millions.
Basically, it's the old BHP site leading further back up the river, and as well, this proposal will upgrade the infrastructure into Kooragang Island to allow the expansion of the Port Waratah coal services.
Most of the gas, electrical and telecommunications services will be supported with underground cabling, but not all.
The old BHP facilities, the old high voltage wires, we've bought them already. There's a small substation there which we're buying already, which we, having got that allows us to upgrade Kooragang Island quicker.
Beckton are the builders, and the development will deliver $71 million to Newcastle with 500 jobs. Between 5 and 6 stories high, the buildings will be lower than the maximum height allowed, with a pedestrian path along the foreshore. But adjacent landowners believe the narrow design forms a barrier along the harbour front and should be changed.
We're in a position now where Honeysuckle are pushing ahead with a hotel that will be to the detriment of Newcastle and could easily have been configured in a different way by sitting down with the other landowners.
The Honeysuckle Development Corporation says there's already been plenty of opportunity for the landowners to have their say or even make a purchase.
The Merriweather Wharf site was offered for public expression of interest last year. That was the fourth in a line of public processes which has identified that site as a hotel site. Everyone's had an opportunity to have a go at this site. Let's get on with the job.
Karina Mitchell from Wharf Furniture says the new development will chew up parking and wants her business relocated.
Yeah, move, basically, so they build a better hotel, and use up this whole space rather than just the very front there.
And would you sell your land to Honeysuckle if they said, all right, we'll buy it all?
Any discussion about sale of land would have to be part of a discussion for the master planning of the entire area and would have to be agreed upon by all parties.
Council will be discussing the development on Monday night.
Few would argue the internet is shaping the modern world, and the people of Dungog are determined not to be left behind.
I think it's something we've all got to learn to grow with. I don't know whether it's the be-all and end-all, but it's something we've got to learn to cope with.
Its new Technology and Learning Centre, or TLC, boasting 13 workstations, is now online, giving residents and businesses the chance to log on and surf the net.
Individuals, whether it's for their own business or for their own pleasure, just to surf the net, but for businesses, if they haven't already got a computer or they want to test out before they buy.
And at today's official opening, there were more than enough takers ready to enter the left lane of the information highway.
I think it's sophisticated and yet simple and approachable.
TLC will be holding classes too, catering for everyone in their junior and senior sessions.
I'll be enlisting for a couple of courses because I'm interested in electronics and interested in computers.
The centre is open 5 days a week and it charges $6 an hour to log on to the web. Catherine Turner, NBN News.
It's been one apiece for Cessnock and West this season, but past performances mean little heading into tonight's Tooheys Cup Rugby League semi-final. What does help the Premier's cause, though, is the return of centre Gavin Cook from suspension.
He's a great player, Cook, and I just like his presence on the field. It does change for the other side. I mean, what he can do in attack and defence is great, and he lifts the side.
However, Cessnock has lost its appeal against its star halfback Kane Bradley's suspension, which only further strengthens the Rosella's chances.
No, we were all smiles during the week. I didn't actually know about it till Tuesday, and it's good news for us.
For Skovgaard, though, he's feeling the pressure of his first year as captain coach and admits the pressure is building.
This week's been pretty tense for me, and I mean, like as you can imagine, like if we bow out this week, it's a major disappointment.
It's semi-final time in Newcastle Rugby Union this weekend as well, with the major semi-final tomorrow between the Wanderers and Eastern Districts. On Sunday, it's do or die for the Waratahs and Singleton.
Under the cover of darkness, but with a sea of blue balloons as a guide, the Olympic flame made its way through Tuncurry and into South Street Oval. Former Olympian Lorraine Thurlow lit the community cauldron, igniting the Olympic spirit in the thousands of people who gathered there. Great Lakes Mayor John Chadban pledged his support on behalf of the community before a fireworks display lit up the night sky as part of the celebrations. From there, the torch relay continued its southward journey. This morning, hundreds of people lined lined the Pacific Highway at Kurua. Anticipation became reality for local torchbearers, clearly thrilled to have the spirit of the Games in their hands. From Kurua on to Raymond Terrace, and emotion overflowed when 1948 Olympian Hugh Lambie carried the torch for Port Stephens. But this was a moment for everyone.
Once in a lifetime experience, and you can't take it away from them.
It's just absolutely fabulous to be here. It's very emotional.
Meanwhile, in Newcastle, a crowd was already gathering in anticipation of the special arrival. 50,000 people are expected to converge on the foreshore for the state's biggest reception so far.
Just before 7 o'clock, the Olympic torch will arrive here. 4 times world surfing champion Mark Richards will light the community cauldron, leading into an evening's entertainment. Brooke Webster, NBN News.
It's just the pull of a trigger. Like this guy had a gun. What's next? You know, all he has to do is pull that trigger, get someone startle him, pull the trigger, and that's it.
There's no mistaking the new fire station at Taro, and officers admit the building is bold as brass.
Just in case people get lost, they can see it from a long way away.
After working from a cramped and damaged station for more than a decade, the 16 part-time retained firefighters have now moved into the new $300,000 building, officially unveiled today. Norm Clulo was fire captain at the old station between 1962 and 72.
There's no comparison to the old station to what it is today. We were a Mickey Mouse outfit compared to this they've got here now.
He recalls a busy workload back then.
2 or 3 big ones. We had a good one at Steggles. The house on the corner on the vacant block there was burnt down. We had a couple of train derailments.
Now the 2-engine station protects Beresfield, Taro and Woodbury and completes more than 200 call-outs each year. Also recognised today, senior firefighters Ian Smith and Robert Tozer, who've both completed 15 years service. Over the years the engines have changed, as have the stations. Paul Lobb, NBN News.
After snagging one of the few prizes left for Adam McDougall to claim, the winger was a happy man today.
I've won a grand final and played an Origin series now, and to play for Australia, it's really the icing on the cake for my football career.
But there's still challenges ahead for him, namely nailing a starting spot.
There's only 7 outside backs picked for 6 positions, so I don't want to be the odd man out.
Ben Kennedy's selection comes after an incredible year which included that State of Origin success and a major ankle injury. Together with Andrew Johns and Matthew Gidley, there are 4 nights all up.
The whole thing, the camp's great, and even training amongst the best players in the whole competition, and just learning different things about different players and different coaches and stuff like that, and the whole thing about travelling away and playing together, it's just a great experience.
Meanwhile, late today, Paul Rahihi agreed to a 2-year deal with the Bulldogs after Newcastle couldn't match the offer from the Sydney club. The big Kiwi forward is disappointed to leave, but said he simply couldn't refuse the Bulldogs' offer. And after retiring from football, Tony Butterfield will now head Landcom's crusade in the Hunter Valley.
Newcastle Cruising Yacht Club already has a Commodore. Soon it will have a home.
I think it's fantastic news for Newcastle. It's been 200 years in coming.
The development application for Stage 1 of the new marina has now been passed and contracts with Honeysuckle and Waterways signed. 60 construction jobs will be created to build the initial 80-berth facility, which will expand to almost 200 when the project is complete. 40 direct jobs should then come online as recreational seafarers begin pulling into Newcastle for fuel and supplies.
I could see it building up probably to a couple of hundred direct and indirect jobs in the fullness of time.
We hope to start within the next couple of months. We have working drawings already for the construction of the first stage of the marina and also the shore-based facilities.
Thanks to all the local people, yes!
For the sea of people who turned out, it'll long be remembered as the day the Olympic flame came to Maitland. An estimated 25,000 crammed into Maitland Park to watch 64-year-old retiree Dave Harwood carry the torch past thousands of newfound fans. With a welcome from above, he was escorted by Maitland student Clinton Mottager. Together they ignited the city's cauldron. It was a case of history repeating for Dave Harwood. He carried the Olympic torch in 1956.
Absolutely fantastic. It's difficult for words to describe it, actually, but just coming through all those people and seeing all the happy faces.
The torch then hit the streets of Maitland, again carried by a former Olympic torchbearer, John Lane, who carried it 44 years ago as a 16-year-old. From Maitland, the torch snaked its way up the Hunter Valley. At Lochinvar, hundreds of students went wild as the torch was carried westward along the Pacific Highway towards Greta and Branxton. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
In a fire, time is critical, so smoke alarms and evacuation plans can make an important difference.
If we can be assured by the people who are around, or the residents or the occupants of the building, that everyone's been accounted for, it really lets us concentrate on our firefighting capabilities without having to do search and rescue.
Authorities say more than 85% of homes do not have an escape plan, and on the last day of winter they're urging householders to stop and think ahead.
When you're sitting around the dinner table at night time, just think, if there was a fire in the kitchen or it happened at night when we're in bed, what would we do? How would we get out?
A plan is just as important in the workplace.
There is a requirement now to have an evacuation plan in place, with floor wardens and fire wardens, and what you do there is to have a roll call, a list of people, and an agreed evacuation meeting point.
If a blaze breaks out, all people need to be accounted for.
It's very important to have your name marked off at the evacuation point, because if it's not marked off, you're the person that we have to look for.
Brooke Webster, NBN News. Keeping on the right side of pet legislation is a walk in the park, but while annual registrations are due in September, pet owners are being encouraged to take the long-term option and register their pets for life. The Companion Animals Act means that in 2 years' time, microchipping and lifetime registration of both cats and dogs will be compulsory.
Well, it means they only have to register their animal once, whether it's a cat or a dog, and it's registered for life. It has to be microchipped, and that's so should the dog or the cat get lost and be picked up, we can identify it.
So the owners of almost 10,000 dogs in Newcastle need to look at the lifetime option either this year or next. There's only around 4,000 pooches already registered for life.
That allows us to provide places like this one for dogs to be able to run free, provide ranges and provide facilities for dogs in our community.
And not complying to registration requirements is bad news for both canines and owners. Hefty fines exist for dogs found not on a leash or without identification tags. Brooke Webster, NBN News.
In recent months, deregulation has opened up competition between Australia's 4 domestic airlines, all engaging in a price war. But Impulse Airlines now has a new battle to fight out, with unions threatening to boycott the service over claims of unfair pay conditions for workers.
They're not covered by the basic rights of a worker under an award or an agreement. So we will be looking at it very, very carefully with a view to seeing what we can do on behalf of those workers who are being exploited.
The Newcastle Trades Hall claims staff from the airline have cited a number of concerns over their pay agreement, including no meal breaks and designated hours of work. In fact, the union claims Impulse's rival Virgin Airlines pays its flight attendants $35,000 and cabin managers $42,000 a year, compared to Impulse, whose annual cabin crew pay equates to $25,000 per annum. But the Newcastle-based airline says outsourcing its staff is perfectly legal.
And it's been proven in the federal court that there is no difficulty and no problem in a legal sense in the way that Impulse operates its the outsourcing of personnel such as pilots. And any modern day company has some sort of outsourcing arrangements.
And as far as the boycott goes, Impulse has warned unions that secondary boycotts are in breach of the Trade Practices Act. But that seems unlikely to deter the union's move to launch a public campaign and threats of industrial action. Helen Kapelos, NBN News.
While it may look like a giant beach ball, it's actually a therapeutic device which is considered the best treatment for posture control.
It's a device used for management of back pain or for exercising on for elite athletes.
However, the plastic previously used for the product has one major drawback. When weight is applied to the older style of exercise ball and it gets a puncture, it explodes. But the new material, which has been tested at Newcastle University, is anti-burst and has taken 5 years to develop. With weight applied to the new exercise ball, it doesn't explode when punctured, which developers AOK Health say is far safer. The Mediball Pro has been in production for 2 years, and having recently secured an international contract worth more than $4 million, Newcastle is bearing the fruits of its success.
Employing it in the Hunter. This business started off with myself 5 years ago and a part-time secretary. Now we employ 28 people within the Hunter and outside the Hunter.
Adam Harper, NBN News.
There were few words to describe Waratah's performance against Lakes in the major semi-final, but 5'8" Steve Story found some.
It was embarrassing, humiliating. We just didn't really turn up ready to play. And we have to improve on that 300% to even get near West.
Voted the league's player of the season, Story was also voted player's player, while his coach Steve Henderson was named coach of the year. Accolades that'll mean little if they lose on Sunday.
I'd much prefer to give them back and do a lap of honour around number one in a couple of weeks.
First things first, and that means beating West, a team used to final success. In fact, Story's workmate Anthony Pauling will be one of the Rosellas out to make sure the Cheetah season comes to an end.
Yeah, it's pretty good. We're pretty quiet about it, really. Haven't said a great deal. Kept to ourselves, pretty much.
West wasn't at its best against Cessnock last weekend, while a few players had to pass fitness tests last night just to make the team. That included the West lock, who has a slight hand injury.
Yeah, there'll be no worries there, Jimmy.
The match will be played at Number 1 Sports Ground on Sunday. Meanwhile, old rivals, the Waratahs and Eastern Districts, will play off in Newcastle Rugby Union's preliminary final tomorrow. The winner will meet the Wanderers in the grand final.
A lot of our schools do these wonderful things, but the community never hears about them. So the council runs these awards to give due recognition and credit to the schools involved.